has ended. Looks like you're not muted yet, but we'll see. And want to welcome everyone to our session today. This is why you need AI for decision making for business strategies and applications. We're here with Professor Don Huseman of Wharton School of Management, I should say, and he directs the Wharton Online program, although he'll be handing over to a new leader soon. Just want to say welcome, Don. Thank you for being here. Here's the agenda we'll be talking about today, and we'll be asking a couple of questions about you along the way, so keep an eye out for those polls. We'll discuss AI in business, and Don will discuss why it's important, what role it can play in your organization, and then what this program offers to you. We'll also talk about how this program gets you ready to face the future and prepare your organization for future challenges. I'll go over the enrollment steps and we'll take your questions. My name, by the way, is Stuart Creek. I'm with Simplilearn, who is a partner with Wharton for delivering this online program. And your guide today is Dr. Huseman. I'll let Don, you can come in and tell the audience about yourself. Yep. I am not hearing you, Don. You're speaking. Don, are you on the does this each time? Okay, Don, are you on the webinar? Going to check. I think Professor Huseman needs to reconnect. He had a little difficulty with the WebEx interface. He'll be back in just a second. I will say that he is the managing director of Wharton Online, a lecturer at Wharton Executive Education, and the founding director of the Wharton Innovation Group. As soon as he's back with us, we'll get into the webinar. Hold on for just a second. Let me see. Here he is. Hello, Don.
Hi. Lost you there for a moment.
We were just talking before the start of the webinar about some of the difficulties with the WebEx platform, and I want to let the audience know that we'll be moving to Zoom as an organization, but this is exactly the kind of thing that I mentioned. So welcome back, and I'll back to this. So I just introduced you as the managing director of Wharton Online, and you might want to tell folks a little bit more about your role and your background and how that's changing.
Sure. Thanks, Stuart. I have been at Wharton for a very long time, actually, in multiple roles. Most recently, I've been the managing director for our online learning initiatives. They started, well, this particular initiative started around 2011 when MOOCs were new and exciting, and the dean and the provost of the University of Pennsylvania asked Wharton to get involved, and the project was handed to me. And so we have been experimenting with various forms of online education since then. Have Still have a variety of MOOCs that are done through sort of self-study, and then we've found a lot of luck working with organizations like Simplilearn to bring a more facilitated experience to the world around current topics that are being researched by Wharton faculty. So we have employed about a half of the Wharton standing faculty in various programs of study. And this one in particular brings together, I can't remember if it's 6 or 7 of our research faculty associated with exploring AI and machine learning. So what we're going to talk about today is really about a business look at the field of artificial intelligence and machine learning. Not so much an engineering look, but rather how to make sense of AI as both a resource to manage as a general manager in a business, but also as an opportunity for bringing your organization up the learning curve into what is emerging as a new set of technologies for augmenting our decision-making processes. So that's a brief overview of how I got to the table today. Stuart, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. And as Don mentioned, he's going to speak about the evolving role of AI in business as a tool to add to the toolkit of organizational managers. So just as a preamble, data drives the economy, as we all know, and the transformation of business to the digital domain has only gotten far faster during the pandemic, where we all instantly had to move to work from home. I remember an executive early in the pandemic who said, if they had told us we needed all to work remotely, we would have told management it would take 6 months and $10 million to do that. And when it happened, it took 3 days with no budget. So we've all had to adapt to a new data-driven world that was creeping up on us over the last decade or two, but is now kind of the environment we all live in. So, Don, how does an organization deal with that metamorphosis?
So what we've been suggesting is that AI is such a fast-moving field that it's important to take kind of a portfolio approach for a larger organization to begin to build capacity inside the organization, both to use data in its structured forms, but to use AI and experiment with AI to explore the vast amount of data that is actually unstructured. So the amount of data that has been growing in our organizations, in our data warehouses, is probably 80% now unstructured. And the intelligence in that data is the gold we're looking at the end of the rainbow in terms of trying to use these new technologies to both test the hypotheses that form the basis of our own thinking about our businesses, but also to manage uncertain environments, such as the kinds of circumstances we find ourselves in today. As some of us emerge from COVID, others are slow to emerge from COVID with war and the possibility of recession looming next year. That uncertainty makes our usual decision-making processes more complicated. And whatever we can do to bring data to help us better test our hypotheses and explore our decision options is worth the investment of time for sure, and of money. With that, let me ask Stuart for the next slide. So this slide is from a report originally put together by McKinsey. There's a similar report that TCS in India has also developed, looking at the critical role for someone who stands between an understanding of the business case, of the C-suite issues, of the business models that have been created and launched in our organizations, and the data scientists. So as I mentioned, this course that we've put together around AI for decision making is not an engineering course, not intended to be. It's really intended to provide a general manager, what we're referring to as that central column, your role as someone who knows enough about the tools that are available and the nature of exploring structured and unstructured data, that you can in fact translate the information that is coming out of your data stores and data collection processes into a forecast model or a decision-making model that will help hone decisions that are made at various levels of management inside your organizations. So the idea is to, at the end of this course, to have you in a position to understand enough about the AI technologies and machine learning technologies that are taking shape on the horizon to be able to help C-suite executives and senior management at your organization form questions that those data can in fact help inform. So it's that middle role that we're after and trying to explore by looking at cases of companies who are at the leading edge of working with new models to extract real information out of the loose data, particularly that's found in vast new stores of unstructured data. In that regard, I might mention that in the nature of unstructured data, we have a large collection of data that comes to us through our email stores and voicemail stores, our video stores, our audio stores, the large quantities of data that are generated by analytical processes that run on our websites and that fill out a profile of what customers are doing as they move from exploration to purchase. All of these stores of data are different than what we faced some 20 years ago when we had relational databases and spreadsheets and tabular data that could be organized by rows and columns and that could be used in a more direct way to predict and to drive spreadsheet forecasting models, either those that are based in worlds of uncertainty where we would rely more on scenario planning and sensitivity analysis versus the optimization models that we would turn to should there be a clear set of choices and expected forecasts. So all of that relied in years past on the existence of relational database management systems and other forms of structured data. The new tools that are emerging are intended to provide us a way of mining the data that comes to us in largely unstructured forms. And that's the point of this course. With that, let me ask Stuart for the next slide. So we're going to show you a variety of examples that come from organizations that have successfully used AI and machine learning to develop new sales and marketing strategies. So we'll be looking at the work that has been done by modern marketing organizations to develop personalized recommendation engines and to explore other marketing strategies that are informed by large transactional databases and by large analytical databases of customer behavior that augments our transactional data stores. We'll be looking at finance applications, such as the ability in midstream for an organization that provides e-commerce transactions, for example, an identification of a pattern of behavior by a customer that might suggest that there's fraud at work, and to intervene in the transaction to take further steps to assure the security of a transaction that might look initially suspicious. And we'll look at a third dimension, calling on faculty who are associated with our People Analytics Initiative to examine how, in fact, AI and machine learning can be used to help us with that most critical resource management task we all face, which is dealing with your decisions around hiring, around promotion, and around managing performance. So AI has a strong role to play in that dimension as well. But of course, it is also important to recognize the ethical and security issues that arise whenever we're using technology in the management of people, which is as critical, if not more so, than in the management of our organizations through new sales and marketing and financial processes. And with that,
I was going to ask, I was going to make a quick mention of a webinar that we did with the founder of Zest Money, who's a fintech firm in India. And the reason I bring it up is that type of fintech firm, which offers microcredit or instant credit to consumers, can only exist because of AI. As you talked about finance and fraud detection and that type of thing, it turns out that the flip side of that is to determine who's a good credit risk from all of that, as you said, unstructured data about a consumer's spending habits and other history. And when a consumer gives permission to Zest Money to mine into that, it can come back and say, these are the types of levels of transactions that we think this person is capable of handling and repaying. And it's an amazing type of environment. So that's another example of how AI in one of these domains has opened up new opportunities for businesses. I just wanted to mention that one. Then let you get back.
Just to build on that, Stuart, sure. One of the realities in even the G20 countries is the problem we face, let's say in the United States, for example, of people who lack FICO credit scores and therefore cannot qualify for a prime rate based loan, and this has the deleterious effect of making worse the divide between the haves and the have-nots, because individuals who might otherwise be entirely creditworthy don't have the FICO score to get that truck or to buy a house or to build the kind of wealth that translates from one generation into the next. Right. And yet, even though in the United States, at least 40% of households lack FICO scores that would allow for a prime rate-based loan, the truth of the matter is the vast majority of those individuals are in fact creditworthy. And it is as a result of the application of AI and machine learning and other fintech tools that companies have been in a position to underwrite the creditworthiness of an individual facing more traditional financial institutions. Yep. This is particularly relevant, of course, even more so in parts of the world where retail banking doesn't have a strong root, where the individuals don't have the common practice of connecting with a local banker at a local branch. It's just in some parts of the world that doesn't happen. Or there are vast areas where retail banking isn't even available, and therefore the use of new technology for transaction processing and for managing your financial life becomes more critical.
Yep. And the example of building credit worthiness for people who don't have the traditional credit scores, um, the effect of that for the business is that they get a whole bunch of new customers who expand their revenue stream. So it works for societal benefit, individual consumer benefit, and business benefit all at once. So great. So in order to participate in this revolution, people, especially at the managerial and director level, need to really have an understanding of the field and what it can do for them, right?
Exactly, and that requires a certain technical exposure to the terminology that the data scientists and the IT engineers will be using in building out and developing a portfolio of AI or machine learning projects at your company. So we're hoping that this course is a way for you to level set with an understanding of some fundamental technologies like what constitutes big data, what constitutes AI, how is machine learning conceived of in contemporary projects, both internal to a larger company in your applications development group, but for smaller and mid-sized companies, what might be available on the open market from consultants and other supporting organizations. We're hoping that you'll come away from this course understanding the difference between supervised and unsupervised deep learning and the cases in which both forms of deep learning algorithmic-based information processing is put in play by development organizations. There, as I mentioned, with regards to our concerns regarding HR applications, there are many ethical circumstances and corporate organizational risks that can be associated with AI. Algorithms can be as biased as individuals in decisions around hiring and promotion and performance assessment, and looking into the ways in which AI applications can either introduce and spread bias in an undetected way, or can be, in some circumstances, increasingly murky and not transparent around the processes or the data points that lead to a particular AI recommendation. So all of those are critically important issues for general management to take into consideration. And for those in the nonprofit sector or in the government sector, there are issues associated with governance to sort of guide, set guardrails for the applications development that might be happening in your organization. With that, let me ask Stuart for the next slide. Oh, and I think this is your poll, Stuart. I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah. This is one of the polls I mentioned, and I want to open that up to the audience. And this first poll is to ask why you have not yet engaged in a program of this type to help you gain that AI expertise. You're here today because you're interested in adding that capability set to your own personal toolkit. So, is there a reason why you haven't done that? And you can give us one, two, three, or all four reasons. Um, I'll leave this open for another 15 seconds or so. Close it in about 5 seconds. And here is the poll result. And about 3/5 of the audience say that they don't feel a program that would give them practical exposure or things that they can point to as practical examples of what they've done with the skill set. To be able to then go back to their organization or even to a new organization and say, this is how I have applied these concepts. Then about a quarter of the audience has each of the other
Three
reasons.
choices, yeah.
Yeah, not finding a completely comprehensive curriculum, not being able to learn from pre-recorded videos on your own, or not having enough time in your work schedule. So.
I suspect that the reason why so many people chose also this issue about practical exposure has to do with the nature of this topic. One of the things that is a bit different about Wharton programming in online efforts at professional development is we tend to focus on issues that are not settled science. So basically, the Wharton School doesn't present, oh, here's a series of courses in learning how to program in R to accomplish certain kinds of activities. You know, that's settled science. What we do is we draw on, frankly, the top academic minds in the world who are involved with research around questions that are open and that are unsettled. And what we try to do is set a table so that on one side of the table we have the top minds from academia, and on the other side of the table we're hoping to draw the top minds from business practice. That would be the people on this call. And we're of the opinion that it's in the conversation between the two sides of that table that new knowledge emerges to help inform responses to these unanswered questions that are on the table regarding where is AI going. It's moving very fast. The programs of study that we have been involved with even last year is very different from what we're facing this year. A year or two ago, the issue of machine learning through structured application of knowledge experts was at the front burner in terms of work being done in this field. Today, what's on the front burner is actually unstructured machine learning. That is an application of algorithms for improving forecasting capability at a scale and a speed of use of data that actually makes it difficult for human beings to follow. And those issues now are relevant in trying to understand, again, some of those ethical considerations that I pointed to earlier. So it's moving fast. It's changing on a regular basis. This is what excites people who are on the faculty at Wharton, and the opportunity to engage with informed practitioners from around the world, such as we're hoping to convene in this program, is helpful in terms of moving that research agenda forward, but also helpful in trying to fill in some detail around what's really working in this space as we know it today. So the faculty can bring research from the organizations they're currently working with. We're hoping you bring context from your own firm, your own role, your own industry to test what we are suggesting might be possible. So in that regard, we will have lots of online discussions to supplement the self-paced part of the curriculum. We hope to have to expose you to a variety of industries and a variety of examples of how these new technologies are beginning to prove their worth. We will have assignments and quizzes around what we know now regarding the state of the art in AI and machine learning. But the intent here is to provide busy professionals like yourselves, or people who might be actively involved with raising a young family, a chance to fit a program of study of this type into your busy lifestyle. So we're looking for 3 to 5 hours a week over the course of the next 3 months for you to explore some pre-recorded material that'll set the stage for interaction that happens in the course and other modalities.
Excellent.
I might ask you for the next slide, Stuart.
Sure. Yeah, and the culmination of that 3-month period is the certificate you earn from Wharton Online that certifies that you covered this material, that you engaged in the program actively, and that you've gained understanding of the concepts. So worked with those case studies, and you've also, as Don said, brought your experience to the discussion so that you can then take away from it insights into how AI can be applied in your own organization. The online experience far different from just self-paced MOOCs or massively online open courses that Don referred to before. So it's a entirely different experience, right, Don?
Yes, yeah, and in fact, what we're hoping to do is to open the floor for considerations and examples and questions and applications that you all might have been exposed to complement the consulting engagements and projects that are funded on campus that are driving the work of our AI-oriented research centers. I mentioned earlier we have faculty from the People Analytics Initiative who have joined this course to look at the applications of AI to decisions around matters associated with human resource management. We have also faculty from our Customer Analytics Initiative who will be looking at the new ways that companies are using unstructured data to inform marketing-related decisions. And as I mentioned earlier, we have faculty from our Stevens Center for Innovation in Finance to talk to the issues associated with new applications of AI machine learning for financial services. I might take a second to answer Conrad's question here, who posted in the Q&A the question, if the class is designed for management level, then there's no need to learn the details of practical exposure. But if the class is designed for the working level, then hands-on practices are needed. Which one is this? So I would challenge your assumption, Conrad. I think our experience at Wharton has been, and we've seen this backed up with research done both at McKinsey and TCS, is that the reason most business analytics projects fail, and most of them fail in terms of delivering value for the investment, is the lack of someone who stands between the management level and the practical level of data warehousing and application development. Someone who acts as a translator between the senior executives or those who have P&L responsibility at your firm, who have in their minds working hypotheses, a theory of their firm, of why in a mature or competitive marketplace, a customer would pick services and products from our company versus some of their competitors. There's a theory, a hypothesis around that question that only someone who is in a translator role can tease out by informing a question, shaping a question, so that data can actually be applied to check that hypothesis and see if it's actually true. We've gone through multiple unprecedented changes in our management of our firms and our economies over the last 3 years. First, putting large segments of our economy into a deep freeze, and now slowly defrosting components of the economy in a world that has learned a whole lot about managing supply chains, about communicating in manners that are not face to face, and in addressing a marketplace that is now entirely disrupted in the space of retail sales in a way that builds on disruptions that happened before COVID. So in all of these uncertain circumstances, the tried and true knowledge that informs the boss, that informs senior people at your organization, isn't so tried and true anymore, and requires exposure to what's the data really saying. Something that may have worked 5 years ago for positioning your firm for success in a crowded field may not be working today. And if I can just use again one example of that, in the retail space, at least in North America, we have seen extraordinary disruption to organizations who have large retail footprints in suburban shopping malls and in cities around the country, who have found themselves facing bankruptcy. Names like Sears and Neiman Marcus and many other big box stores are in trouble. And yet, in the midst of all of this chaos, you see these extraordinary rising stars, like, for example, Lululemon and Trader Joe's and Sephora, who are actually rapidly growing in the same retail space that has seen such devastation. What we are seeing at Wharton in studying these successes are organizations that have learned how to apply data to inform an omni-channel retail strategy. And that kind of work can't be done by the wizened, gray-haired, here I am, I got a lot of gray hair myself, wizened, old, gray-haired leadership of the organization, nor it can be handled by the young Turks who are fresh out of engineering school and ready to crank up those Tableau systems for creating beautiful data charts. It takes someone in the middle, someone who understands the value of Tableau and of other ways to represent data and to extract data and to gather data, along with someone who can talk to the C-suite executives and extract the underlying assumptions behind the decisions they make on a daily basis. That's what McKinsey identified as the critical role in a successful business analytics project. And as I say, TCS did as well. So that's where we're trying to shape this course, is for in between those two positions, Conrad. So it is intended to look practically at who's succeeding, but we're hoping to have a conversation around how this success may or may not apply to your context, and what it is that's needed in a sense of organizational capacity, both in your IT space and in your training space and in your investment in cloud-based services to test those hypotheses in this new emergent uncertain world that we're all living in at the moment. So
Right.
we do rely on real world business case studies, and the professors will be bringing to the table are people who are, getting their hands dirty every day in this space. This course isn't about teaching R, but everyone I think who's teaching in this from the Wharton School in this course is uses R and a whole variety of different data tools for extracting information from unstructured data in their regular research. As I say, R is the preferred tool at Wharton, but there are many, many tools. This isn't the issue isn't tools, and the issue isn't data. The issue is extracting intelligence from data.
Yep. That also, and touched on it, and brings us to discussing why the Wharton School is the best choice for engaging in this investigation of AI.
And yeah, I can speak a little bit to that from the point of view of a market positioning that our dean Erica James is interested in putting in the marketplace, so that people who might have the luxury of choosing between an education at Wharton or Stanford or Harvard or INSEAD or ISB, Singapore Management University, all these great schools around the world. Why would you ever be interested in engaging with the Wharton School or sending your son and daughter to an MBA program in a place like Wharton? And I think the answer to that, or one of the answers to that, is the fact that Wharton, on a scale of being poetic to being quant-oriented, and I use those terms because of a kind of a famous MBA blog that helps people pick MBA schools to go to earlier in their career, that's called Poets and Quants. And on one end, one could point to Harvard as being the most poetic, I think, of the classic big-name business schools, in that their engagement with cases and with senior leadership around the world in intimate conversations around what succeeded in their careers is extraordinary and wonderful and a great experience. That's not this course. That's not what Wharton does. What we do is focus on metrics and data and financial models and projections and the empirical truth of what's going on. So to give you a flavor of that, when the Wharton School was founded in 1881 as the first business school that was based around a college or university in the world, that was sort of an invention in 1881 by Joseph Wharton and his work with some of the economists and lawyers who were working at the University of Pennsylvania at the time to build out what was going to become the curriculum for undergraduate business degrees, and then later for MBAs. In those days, there was a great deal of engineering happening around canals and waterways in the North American continent, which were critical infrastructure for the growth of this sort of second industrial revolution that was happening in North America at the time. And one of the major projects, of course, was the effort to connect the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans through the Panama Canal. Well, the government of Teddy Roosevelt turned to Wharton professors to help understand the forecasts, financial modeling, and P&L projections around this extraordinary engineering feat called the Panama Canal. And he turned to Wharton School faculty for helping inform those decisions around how charges and tariffs were being developed for shipping. Because we had studied similar activity in the North American canals, the Erie Canal systems that connected the Northeast, for example. So we've been involved with big data and deep into understanding forecasting and predictive modeling since the 19th century. And then through the 20th century, Wharton was the campus where the concept of life insurance took shape. The idea that you could put a dollar value on a person's life and develop financial security systems for that, the value of that life. That you could look at the entire functioning of an economy as a series of sectors who could be measured to develop outcome metrics like gross national product. All of that work was done at the Wharton School. The development of marketing science, largely accomplished by the work of Paul Green, some of the work around conjoint analysis done in the 1960s, that moved marketing from being a largely creative exercise, again, a poetic exercise, to a metrics-driven approach to understanding what works in marketing and what doesn't. So it's been a long history, almost 150 years, of being deeply involved with the application of data. That is the reason why I can confidently tell you that I think of all of schools who put programs of study together for you to look at, if what your driving need is associated with the kinds of examples we've been trying to describe. The application of large data sets studied and analyzed using state-of-the-art tools to inform real-world decisions that are being made on a daily basis, then I think the Wharton School is as well prepared as any partner you could find to help you in that exploration. But I will say it's an exploration. It's not a matter of settled science. It's not like we're teaching you calculus. We're exploring together as a community of inquiry a topic that is what we consider to be both emergent, unsettled science, and critically important. Those are the topics that draw attention from the 250 members of the standing faculty at the Wharton School, from whom we draw to present this class.
Great. That puts it in a perfect context. The eligibility for this is not based on knowledge or experience in programming or mathematics. You don't have to come in with that background. But the ideal candidate for this program is someone either at the C-suite or the director level or senior level managers, consultants, that type of thing, so that um, people who are considering how the application of AI will affect the future course of their organization. Is that a fair summary?
Yes, I would say so, and particularly those who might be high-performing individuals in your organization who have been tapped for potential future leadership roles. Oftentimes, in larger organizations, C-suite executives are their time is in such demand that it might be challenging for them to take on a program of study like this. So it might be that people who are close to the C-suite or aspiring to C-suite roles who would find this course both manageable as well as valuable.
Yeah. And in some organizations, the responsibility for looking at technologies and strategic um, future paths can be dispersed down to an even lower level. So um, people who have that level of responsibility or are tasked with that are also great candidates for that. We just talked about this.
Yeah,
So
there you go.
apologize for jumping the gun on this one, but yes, if you want to understand how you can make your organization AI ready, or you want to understand what specific proposals you might use to um, start planning for introducing AI into your business. Um, and then last category of managers and leaders who want to build their own capabilities so that they're prepared to take on more responsibility in their career at higher levels in the organization. So all of the peoples at these levels um, are ideal candidates for the program and people who should really consider it. I'm going to ask this poll question with regard to how much experience people have so that we can get an assessment of where people are in their careers, of the folks in the audience. And we'll just leave this open for about 20 seconds. And close the poll in about 5 seconds from now. Get your answer in. Here's the poll result. So about 40% of the audience are folks in the fresher category, people who are new to the workforce. On the other hand, about a quarter of the audience are people with more than 10 years of experience out in the workforce, and then um, some folks, of course, in between. Um, so there is a significant uh, section of the audience of people who are fairly seasoned in their careers, and then there are a number of people who are looking to move up, gain the tools and skills to advance in their careers. So, what are your comments on that? Don?
I would say that for those who have less than 2 years experience, you may want to take a deep look at what's available on the market, because it could be that this is not targeted to help you as well as other programs might. There's a program in data science that Johns Hopkins, I know, does, that I've heard good things about, particularly for people who are kind of new to the workforce, that you may want to look at. And there are others too. I know that Stanford is increasing its portfolio in this space, aimed at engineering students in particular. So this is very much a business course, and so it's for people who are aspiring to understand new technologies in a way that would accelerate their career inside a business as a general manager, someone who ultimately is seeking out senior management positioning. Or it could be senior management within a technical organization if it's a larger organization. So just something to think about. Now, it could be you're a fast starter and you want to learn what the language that you need to use to talk to C-suite executives, and use this as an opportunity to engage. That's an opportunity, but take a good look at it if you're in that A category of less than 2 years.
Yeah, there's also an interesting group of people in the less than 2 years or 2 to 5 years experience who are entrepreneurs who
Mm.
have completed academic training and are actually going to go out into the world and start a new business. And so they're kind of fast tracking into the level of the senior manager, executive, C-suite executive, and
Yeah,
these
yeah,
people
exactly.
are also.
I've started several businesses myself, and I know that you become a CEO before before you're finished, programming your
Right.
applications.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to kind of wear both hats you wear many hats when you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So I can understand their attraction to trying to get ahead of this technology, particularly
Right.
things you can invest in that's shown a good, reasonable track record. These can be expensive projects, AI projects, very often undertaken successfully by just very large organizations. But there are some applications that are emerging that are available for purchase through the cloud that we'll show you some examples of as well.
Yep. And so, as Don mentioned, this is a business course. We have Simplilearn offers other technical courses for people who are interested in gaining the tools and experience to actually build and develop AI uh, tools. But this program is different from that, and it prepares you in a different way. So, going through the curriculum here, Don, you might want to just tell how the experience plays out for people who are going to take on a 3 month program with you.
Sure. So we start at that bottom foundations level where we try to cover quickly some of the basics of the technology platforms that AI and machine learning are built on. Uh, by the way, none of this is very watered down, and it's not watered down at all. This is directly from the courses that are taught to our doctoral students and MBA students on these same topics by the same faculty. We then bring in people from the Customer Analytics Initiative to talk about how AI applications in the marketing world are working. We then, in the third module, will look again at the finance domain, talking with the research scientists from our finance department. We then move on to the trickiest of the group, which is HR management. We'll be bringing in Matthew Bidwell from our People Analytics Initiative. And then we'll look more broadly at the whole set of issues associated with governance and the nature of the impact of AI on the general economics of our organizations and industries. And that's very much fluid. As some people have said in the Q&A section, AI is increasingly automating a variety of white-collar jobs that we were thought would never be touched by forces of automation in the past, but they are now. They're also generating opportunities for new kinds of white-collar jobs, particularly for those people who can play that translator role, who can understand how to marshal the forces of technology to drive a theory of the firm.
And here's just a smattering of the technology, or the not technology, I'm sorry, the faculty, the program faculty from Wharton who participate in this program. These are your colleagues, Don.
Yes, yeah, I know them all. So you'll see here representation from multiple academic departments at the Wharton School, including legal studies and business ethics. Kevin Werbach was in the Obama administration guiding some of the regulatory initiatives around the space. Sunny Tombe is a brilliant new faculty member, associate professor of operations, who is deeply involved in running our AI for Business Research Center, et cetera. I won't go through them all, but they're all very well-respected professors, all tenured. Their job is to be on top of the best research in this space. That's okay. We're sort of running out of time here, so I should.
All right. All right. And so just one quick poll based on what you've heard so far. Are you interested in enrolling in this program? A straightforward question.
Yeah, sometimes the easiest way to get an answer to a question is just to ask it simply.
Yep.
While we're doing this, Sunit has a question popped up saying, is this a Simplilearn course or a course from Wharton? The course is from Wharton. So Wharton is an East Coast U.S. Ivy League school with a beautiful campus, and we're in no position to deliver a course globally. I would argue that there isn't a single Ivy League school or Ivy League Plus school that's in a position to deliver 24/7, 365 in multiple languages. We all need partners to do that. Simplilearn is our partner for this course.
Thank you. Yeah. And just to make that clear, Simplilearn offers some courses on our own, which are technological, digital skills oriented, aligned to industry requirements. Those are um, skills training for people who are interested in upskilling and reskilling in particular areas. But we partner with the universities to help them deliver a different category of knowledge. And this is a particularly good example of that, where um, we're acting as the delivery partner to provide a platform um, for content and knowledge that's being transmitted by Wharton. The poll result shows that about 3/4 of our audience is interested in applying. So let me briefly talk about the enrollment steps. It's a 3-step process. So you email us at askus@simplilearn.net, as we're the administrator, help Wharton with this. We review your prerequisites. Again, the prerequisites are pretty straightforward. And then on approval, we send you an admission offer. The next cohort for this program starts on December 22nd. We have two pricings. One is for U.S. students, which is 3,000 US dollars. That's pretty much the pricing worldwide, except in India, of course, where it's denominated in rupee. 1,35,000, and that can be financed out over time at no cost interest or no interest financing. We also remind people to ask their employers about tuition reimbursement for executive education, since that's often a benefit that your employer will offer you. But again, that's completely up to the employer, not Wharton or Simplilearn. But again, to reach out, email it at askus@simplilearn.net. I will put that email address into the chat box here. And that way it'll be at your fingertips. And there we go. And quick additional question, if you're interested, 3/4 of you have said that. Now that you've seen the pricing, how soon do you plan to enroll? You want to do that in the December cohort, or are you looking at something further out? Yes, let this go for about 15, 20 seconds here. All right. Okay. So a number of you are interested in doing this quickly, in the December cohort, maybe the one after. And some more of you are interested in looking at within 6 months out. And for those of you who are looking further out, we do encourage you to email us so that you can stay in touch and keep track of developments in the program. But we understand that timing in terms of your personal experience and personal career plans um, is a choice that you need to make. So, uh,
Stuart, I may have lost you. We are fast approaching the bottom of the hour, so I want to thank everybody for your participation today and for your many questions. I realize we didn't get to a lot of the questions in the Q&A panel, so you can reach out to the Ask Us email address that Stuart shared to try to get your answers about this program. For those of you who are thinking about taking it or getting involved with programs of study around this sometime in the future, you may want to keep your eye on the Wharton Research Center websites. So if you go to www.wharton.upenn.edu and click on research, you'll see various white papers and descriptions of activities that the research faculty I mentioned post as a regular basis. So, with that, I'm going to bid you a good day and hope that you stay safe and well, and that you are successful in all your efforts to advance your professional career.
yeah, here, are you hearing me now, Don?
I am now, yes. We lost you for a while.
Yeah, same thing that happened to you earlier happened to me just now. So,
Yeah.
again, I apologize to our audience, and we'll finish out the presentation. First off, do we have questions and answers that we want to take? What have you seen in the Q&A box?
Let's see. I think we answered several of them. Someone asked the question, is this a free program? Do I have to pay for it? I think you got the answer to that. There are ways to study this material for free. You have to be disciplined and you have to look a little harder. So you won't have the help that Simplilearn could provide you in exploring it. But as I say, if you go to the Wharton website and look at some of those research centers, there's some free white papers you can get.
Here's a question from Sandra, which applies to what Conrad is saying earlier. She asks, how can AI be used in marketing? And that relates to the example Conrad gave of, when an organization is just trying to take in information from receipts and then use that for a bonus program. How would you use that? So can you comment on that? Because I do have a comment.
So one of the areas where marketing faculty and researchers are trying to understand how to extract data is in the constantly evolving set of constraints around e-commerce and digital marketing. So both iOS and Android are increasingly moving away from the use of cookies on sites, and as a result of European security measures, or there are other kind of constraints around collecting profile data on individuals. All of that's constantly sending marketers to new sources of data for extracting the kinds of information that drives decisions around things like product characteristics and product roadmaps and pricing and et cetera, all the elements associated with offering a product on the market. So AI is very, very important in the field of marketing.
And I'm hoping that Don hasn't just lost his connection, but yep. I will offer an insight onto, here he is, the application of marketing AI in the particular example that Conrad used, which is bonus programs. When you're looking at bonus programs for or points accumulation programs for retail, one of the things that AI helps with is understanding the purchase patterns, and it feeds back into what offers you're going to be recommended. So for example, CVS, which is a large pharmacy chain in the United States, has a well-established program, and they uh, print out very famously the very long receipt that shows all the different offers that you can get. That's driven again by AI. They know that if you've purchased a certain set of things in the past and you're purchasing a certain set of things today, the AI engine can make recommendations on the fly and adjust the offers that it gives you in terms of discounts um, based on its analysis of your propensity to buy. So it can give you a bigger offer if it feels that that would induce you to make a purchase. It can give you a smaller offer if it knows that you're likely to make the purchase anyway and just need a small incentive. So those are examples of how this works. Because John has lost his connection, I am just going to go ahead, go to the end of this uh, process, and I apologize, but we will be sharing a recording of this session. And here is our last question for you. For people who are interested in enrolling, are you interested in getting assistance from us? Ask this last poll question really quick. All right, I'm still showing that one. Basically, yes, no question. It's very quick. All right. And we'll close the poll in about 5 seconds here. All right. So for those of you who are looking to get assistance in enrolling, please do contact us at askus@simplilearn.net. Of course, that QR code will take you to the program page on our website, which will tell you more about the program, allow you to download the syllabus, and contact our learning consultants. Again, with that, I'm going to conclude the webinar today. I want to thank everyone for being here. I would like to thank Don for being generous with his time and knowledge today. And we hope that we can welcome you into the Wharton online learning community. So looking forward to hearing from you, and thanks again for being here today.